Brandon Reed here for Artistic Systems, and today we're going to do a very quick overview of a fun little tool we've put together called MidQuery. Now, MidQuery is actually a prompt designer for Midjourney. So if you're kind of new to the art AI generation scene and you're looking for more information about how to prompt and all of that, MidQuery is a great tool for you to start the prompting process and kind of get a feel for how prompts are constructed. Now, obviously, Midjourney, what makes it kind of unique is that it's an open string format. So the entirety of human language is at your disposal, right? So this is just a great starting point for you to understand how to compile various components of a prompt itself, and then utilize those to create very specific and meaningful and rich prompts and subsequent images. So what we have here is the site, midquery.com. And it's broken down into 12 guided tiles. And each one of these represents a different element or potential element of a Midjourney prompt. And we've broken this down into 3 categories: prompting essentials, the creator's workshop, and then Midjourney backend parameters. And again, each box is designed to focus on a specific aspect or element, whether it's providing a link for inspiration, right? Have the AI look at that image and use that as inspiration for the rest of your prompt. Defining a subject, an action, a background, a particular photographic technique that's involved in the image creation, any artistic styles into how it's generated, as well as defining the size and resolution or aspect ratio, print mediums. Do you want it painted on something and with something specific, drawn with something specific, whatever that is. And then the backend parameters allow you to tell Midjourney, basically give it commands on how you want it to approach the image, whether it's particular amount of creative freedom or lack thereof, chaos or lack thereof. You can actually define what's not in the image to ensure that you don't have things coming in that you don't want to see. If you find an image that you really like and you want to use it for subsequent images, maybe to create comic book strips, other things like that, you can use seeds, and there are two types of seeds currently. And then finally, you can save money on your subscription by toning down the quality of your renders, as well as maybe just stopping the rendering process at a certain percentage, which can be useful in certain circumstances. So today, we're going to run through at least the first 8 tiles and generate a prompt, and then we'll punch that through Discord and see what we get. So we're going to start here with an image that I found. Pretty quintessential, likely from the 1950s, I guess, somewhere around there. A couple at a diner, sharing a milkshake with 2 straws, right? Very quintessential. So we'll go ahead and grab this image link here, and we'll punch that into our first guided tile. Now, in terms of the subject, we can describe whatever we want, right? But we have that image as our inspiration, so we might as well try to stay somewhat true to that. So we're going to start with just the description of our subject, which is our couple. So we'll go teenage couple on a date, dressed in 1950s clothing. All right, that's pretty good description of the subject. Now, what are they doing, right? They're sitting across from each other in a diner, and they are sharing a single milkshake. Two straws. That looks pretty good. And then in terms of the background, it doesn't look like there's much going on here. Let's just add a waitress here. So our waitress is taking orders in the background. All right. Creator's workshop. This is where we can apply the photographic techniques, artistic style, size and resolution, and print mediums. So I've put together a pretty good list initially of photographic techniques. This is a lot of academic stuff, but there's also a few other options in there as well. So there's some great options here. And I'll continue to add to this list as I discover more things that work. But in this particular case, I'm interested in advertising. kind of a 1950s ad feel to it. So maybe we can recreate that with our photographic technique. And then for artistic style, you've got tons of options here, right? From surrealism to modern art, manga, expressionism. So it's kind of a mixed bag, Japanese anime. For this particular one, I'm interested in getting a little funky. So let's go with Art Deco. That seems like an interesting approach to go with our advertising photographic technique. And then size and resolution, you've got just a handful of options here for aspect ratio. I didn't list everything possible. There's plenty of other aspect ratios, but we've got some standard monitor sizes and some standard photograph sizes that you see around the house. But you can also just define a straight width and height like I did for these images here to get a very specific slim and wide image. You can define your width height, but just keep in mind that you're restricted to values between 256 and 2034. So there's not a great depth of options here. It's only about 3 megapixels. So we'll go 1920 by 1080. And you do that by putting 1920x 1080 in that. That's the format. Put it in that way. We can break that up on the back end here and create your parameters. So make sure you do that. And it's one or the other. So make sure if you use this, you don't use this. If you use this, don't use this. For print mediums, this is where you can get really creative with how the image is, what the image is created on, as well as what artist's tool is used to create that image. So we've got an example here of drywall and crayon. I think for ours, I'm really interested in getting back into that 1950s approach. So let's go with postcard, and let's do a colored pen. Right, that should get us pretty close to that 1950s ad kind of style where everything was drawn. Then again, for Midjourney parameters, there's lots of options here. We're not going to use any of these. If for some reason, we had another Midjourney image that we wanted to use as inspiration, we could potentially grab the seed as well and do both. That helps. But we don't really know what we don't know yet, right? It's our first image, so I'm not really sure what it's going to give me. So there's nothing I want to define that's not in there, because at this point I'm kind of open to anything. So we'll stick with these 8 guided tiles. We'll leave these 4 alone. And then what we can do is essentially generate our prompt, and it will concatenate all that into a single string for us. It'll insert the syntax where it needs to be inserted for us. And now we can copy that to clipboard. And then we head over to Discord and do /imagine. That opens up our prompt, and that's when the magic happens. So obviously, rendering takes about a minute, so I'm going to fast forward the video. All right. So it looks like we got some good options here. I'm already seeing one that I think is a little truer to the prompt than the others. Obviously, we've got, this one is pretty close. We've got our subject. They do have the single milkshake, but then they stuck one in here randomly. This one looks pretty good, although we've got kind of an issue here with the subjects. It looks like there's actually 3 peoples. This one looks pretty good, other than the fact that they're obviously on a sugar high from all those milkshakes. We only wanted one. This image, though, is getting us real close, right? We've got our waitress in the background. We've got our couple. There's the 2 straws, right? We've got a nice, what looks like a postcard. It's hard to tell until we upscale. Colored ink is definitely on par here. So let's go ahead and upscale number 2, and then let's see what that looks like. And again, processing time takes about a minute, so I'm going to fast forward. All right, so our first upscale, looking pretty clean. Pretty happy with this. I mean, we've got the water glass. This looks like some other, probably a milkshake, so that we might want to try to figure out how to prompt that out. The waitress definitely has a little Art Deco funk going on, but that's all good. Same here with the hands. That's all in line with what we're trying to do here, right? This is looking really good. So let's go ahead and upscale this to max, and let's see what the final output looks like. All right, let's see what we ended up with. So this is our final output, and this is actually pretty cool. True to what we were looking for here, right? We've got a teenage couple on a date, dressed in 1950s clothing, sitting across from each other at a diner, sharing a milkshake with 2 straws waitress in the background taking orders. We've got a postcard print drawn with colored ink in an Art Deco format and does look a little bit like an ad to me. So I think we did a pretty good job of nailing this one, and that's what makes Midjourney so exciting, is how powerful just simple mere words can be. This has been Brandon Reed with MidQuery and Artistic Systems. Thanks, and looking forward to seeing what you guys prompt.